Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on the channel, and today we're going to be talking about Heart Eyes, directed by Ruben, starring Olivia, Holt, and Mason Gooding. And I honestly wasn't really sure which movie I was going to watch between both this and Love Hurts tonight, and after seeing surprisingly good reviews for this film, I made my decision, and I'm honestly really glad that I watched Heart Eyes. If you were to compare this to anything, I honestly would say probably Thanksgiving from a couple years ago, and so if you like that movie, this is probably going to be a really great, fun date night horror rom-com for Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy V-Day!
Get killed, all right? What was...
Why would he say that?
And as always, we'll be getting to spoilers for this movie, so if you haven't had a chance to watch Heart Eyes, go check it out, come back here, and let's just get into the good stuff. So what is this film about? Well, essentially it follows a serial killer who kills solely on Valentine's Day. He seeks out loving couples and decides to just ruin their days in the most brutal ways possible. We follow Olivia, Holt, and Mason Gooding as they start a very unconventional romance in this film that kind of plays on the tropes of the rom-com genre. But of course, they eventually get the attention of the Heart Eyes killer, and off to the races we go. So first I want to talk about the things that I really liked about this movie, and I honestly really enjoyed the characters in this film. I've been a fan of Mason Gooding for quite some time now, and honestly, I think he's pretty much the best part in every single movie that he's been in. I think most people would obviously recognize him from the recent Scream movies, which his role in that franchise is very similar to what he's playing in here, but he's also really great in simple rom-coms like Love, Victor, which honestly, if you haven't seen that show, I would highly recommend it. And this is actually the first time that I've seen Olivia Holt in a movie, and so I found her chemistry with Gooding to be absolutely phenomenal. I think that their dynamic in this movie will be a large reason why couples will walk out of this movie very satisfied with what they watch, because I don't know, I just think their chemistry was great. The comedy between them is great, and although it follows the tropes, like I said, that you'd expect from a rom-com, it playfully pokes fun at it at the same time. They have, of course, an extremely cute meet-cute situation in a coffee shop at the beginning of the film, which is obviously played off as a joke with the several times that she headbutts him in the face. She, of course, quickly runs off to work where she's in advertisement for a jewelry company, where she essentially pitches ideas for marketing campaigns, and the one that she has pitched has become extremely controversial in recent days because, of course, there is a serial killer going out there killing couples in the real world, and this advertisement plays on famous couples in movies that tragically die, and so it's very much a bad timing type of situation. But honestly, if these killings weren't happening, I think that this would be a really great advertising campaign. I love the little mock commercial that they made inside of this film, and unfortunately, it is, putting her job on the line because, of course, it is not a good advertisement to have at this time. And so, of course, Mason Gooding's character is going to be the guy that her boss hired to essentially save their company and save this pitch deck to now have to work side by side with her character to create a new commercial idea. So now we have two characters that clearly have a lot of chemistry with each other, but also they clearly have a lot of reasons to butt heads, both literally and metaphorically. And I really love the dinner scene that they have together where we get to see how different Allie and Jay's perspectives are on love. Allie is very doom and gloom and very pessimistic about everything after being in a bad breakup prior to the events leading up to this film, where Jay is extremely optimistic and has very rose-colored glasses look at love. And yes, this does set up a very clear and obvious direction in which this movie is going to go with these characters. Jay's charm and optimistic view, despite the terrible circumstances that they find themselves in, will eventually rub off on Allie's character by the end of the movie, but what makes it work is that it is set up extremely well here, and I think that the script and the way that they constantly decide to come back to each other make it feel earned by the end of it. But we can't forget that this is first and foremost a slasher film, and so the kills need to be good. It can't just be a fun rom-com, although I do think this movie could have worked as just a fun rom-com.
The masked maniac known as the Heart Eyes Killer has stalked,
hunted,
and brutally slain couples on Valentine's Day.
So enter the Heart Eyes Killer. I think that the design of the character it's pretty decent. There's nothing super iconic about this character. At least I don't think this character design will end up being like a super iconic slasher villain in the future, but the kills are actually the thing that matter. And the movie opens up with a great opening scene of a couple proposing to each other in the most awkward and forced way possible to try to capture the moment all on camera. And the Heart Eyes Killer, of course, shows up to stab the photographer through the lens of the camera, which I absolutely thought was great. A couple of arrows and a compactor later, we have our first 3 kills in this movie, and they were bloody and just simply glorious. And this movie honestly doesn't really waste a lot of time to getting, this killer to encounter our main characters. It's not like in Halloween where we get to see Michael Myers stalk many other babysitters before finding Laurie Strode. Pretty much right after that dinner scene is when Allie throws her vibrator in the face of the killer, beginning the chase inside of Allie's home. This, of course, leads to the carousel sequence and introduces 2 other characters named Hobbs and Shaw, which led to probably my favorite joke inside of the entire movie, especially since Jordan Brewster is very very much known for the Fast and Furious franchise. But at this point, the movie does play out as your fairly standard Scream-esque whodunit until we get to the drive-in theater scene, which was so much fun. You get the best kill in the movie, which unfortunately was inside of that first trailer, but it was the reason why I thought this movie was maybe going to be a good movie, because that kill with the couple in the back of the van is so incredibly gruesome and it's shot so well. The camera dolling out of the hole through the girl's head is just absolutely gross and phenomenal. I do wish there was a little bit more carnage though, when the killer was just kind of walking past all the bystanders inside of the drive-in theater. At one point, this dolly shot is just kind of going by and he's killing all these people, and I just wish that it was kind of like the Deadpool and Wolverine sequence. Maybe that was just stuck in my head, but that would have been really great to see just complete and utter chaos in this moment. And then we get a surprisingly effective fake out ending, if you will. It very much feels like the original Alien, where all seems to be good and you think that the characters have killed the villain, which in this case they have. But of course, there is more than one killer in this movie because we got to keep this story going. The first guy honestly doesn't really matter, but the other two end up being Shaw and the random guy who was in, like, hitting on Allie inside of the police station, which was a very cringy scene that seemed inconsequential, but of course that guy ended up being the other killer. One thing that I actually really like about this reveal is that you get to see which killer was behind the mask for each kill in this movie, which, a lot of people theorize with the Scream movies, like, oh, who's the killer inside of this scene, or who killed this character. It's something that, people theorize all the time about those movies, and it's really great to actually see that in action and be revealed inside of this one. And I'm sure many, even myself, kind of assumed that the killer was going to be some incel type guy who couldn't find love, which is essentially why he's killing all these couples on Valentine's Day, but that's very much not the case in this one. It's actually a throuple of sorts that have a kink of killing, which I guess that works too. And so as killer reveals go, it was not exactly what I was expecting, but it wasn't anything too crazy either. It was nice to see Mia from Fast and Furious be a serial killer in this, and the other guy was fun to bounce off of her as well, but the way that they go out was the fun part about this reveal. The guy dies from Jay stabbing him in the face with an arrow, which was absolutely glorious. I love the practical effects inside of the makeup in that scene, and you get all the candle wax dripping on top of his body, which I don't know how those candles had that much wax, but why not? And then Allie kills Shaw, and a totally gruesome way that also plays off of the Valentine's lore inside of the Bible. She gets beheaded by the statue that was also holding a head, resulting in one of the most satisfying moments inside of the entire film. The cinematography and editing were also very strong inside of this movie. Chris Stuckman mentions in his Letterboxd review that this film and Companion both have the same editor, and yeah, the editing here is great. It's snappy and sharp with its kill sequences, and it knows when to let the characters sit and grow, especially in the scene inside of the van where there's literally a sex scene happening behind the scene of what this conversation is, but the conversation itself is actually very sweet and tender despite the awkward situation that they're in. But I will say that there's one particular plot thread that I wasn't the biggest fan of. When Hobbs and Shaw show up at the carousel, they have already put Gooding's character in custody for being the Heart Eyes killer, and Shaw specifically says that he was caught wearing the mask and holding the weapon, and so he is framed essentially to be the main suspect. I definitely thought that this could be a possibility. The killers in these type of movies are generally the boyfriend, which is the rule in at least the Scream franchise, and so you never really know what is going to happen by the end of it. But with the way the movie does end, why was he wearing the mask and holding that weapon? Or did she just lie about that? She probably was just lying, but wasn't her partner also with her when they found him and put him in custody? I just have a lot of questions about that. Shaw's interrogation of Jay was really fun, and I imagine that if you go back and watch it, there's probably a lot of lines in it where, it might lead some more suspicion upon her. But besides that, I think that the sequence was probably one of the weakest in the movie, and it did drag a little bit. But at that point, I think I'm just nitpicking a little bit because the flag using it to kill the other guard was a lot of fun. But with this film having very engaging and likable characters, some really fun kill sequences, and a great sense of humor, this movie honestly escapes the pitfalls, at least for me, of being a generic slasher movie, and ends up being quite a pleasant surprise in the exact same way that Thanksgiving was for me. I will say that Thanksgiving had a little bit of better kills. I think some of them are going to be more memorable than this film, but I did actually like the characters and their arcs inside of this film much more, so I kind of had them on even playing field. But those are just, of course, going to be my thoughts on Hard Eyes. Definitely let me know in the comment section down below what you thought of this film, along with whether or not this will end up being your date night movie for Valentine's Day. Of course, you have Love Hurts as well in theaters, but I think that this is probably going to be the way to go. And of course, if you did enjoy this review, make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe to the channel to see more reviews just like this. I just wrapped up the Sundance Film Festival this past weekend, so definitely check out my reviews for 15 of the online selection. They were all extremely emotionally devastating films that you should definitely be looking forward to throughout the rest of this year. So thanks everybody for watching, and I hope to see you all in my next one. Now, off to watch the new episode of Severance because that show is great and it just dropped. Time to go.